In mid-2022, the House Subcommittee held a landmark hearing about UFOs, marking the first UFO congressional hearing in over 50 years. Congress hadn't held a public hearing on unidentified aerial phenomena since 1969. According to an official presenting the case, that will change when I lead a hearing on this topic and the national security risk it poses. Americans need to know more about these unexplained occurrences. An Intelligence Committee representative said that the UFO phenomenon is one of the great mysteries of our time, and we must break the cycle of excessive secrecy and speculation with truth and transparency. The hearing included testimony from two senior Pentagon officials. An esteemed UFO expert declared that this is what the people have been asking for: UFO transparency. This hearing will kick in the doors and is more proof that UFOs are real and prove that they have advanced tech that we cannot identify. It will focus on the national security and the flight safety issues caused by the presence of UFOs on planet Earth. He added, "Science fiction is now science fact. Human knowledge expands a little bit every day, and that's what we're seeing now. We have reached the cusp of substantiating history's most debated mystery: the reality of a technologically advanced extraterrestrial presence in our world. The unsettling question of whether they represent a threat or a benign intervention to the people of planet Earth remains unknown. Either way, our leaders appear to have relinquished their campaign of prolonged secrecy. One can conclude that the reason for this is the inevitable truth that will be disclosed to mankind not by the world's governments, but via our celestial neighbors. When this day comes, and it could be soon, it will establish a new renaissance in human history and change our lives forever." New bombshell footage presented to the House Subcommittee included U.S. Navy's radar documents, inferred footage, a video from the deck of a battleship displaying a fleet of UFOs circling above the ship in July of 2019. Additionally, it was revealed that there have been substantially more reports of UFO encounters than previously believed. A Navy intelligence official informed lawmakers that the military's database on reported sightings of UFOs contain around 400 incidents, 250 more than the 143 stated in the report released in 2021. The reason for this sudden increase is due to the breaking down of the stigma to report UFO sightings, resulting in humiliation and even job dismissal. Individuals, once apprehensive to disclose their encounters, are now admitting to incidents they didn't report at the time. The military has made an effort to eliminate the stigma related to reporting UFOs, allowing more freedom for individuals to relate their experiences without repercussions. The deputy director presented lawmakers with stunning reported incidents, including classified footage of a spherical craft flying past an FA-18 fighter jet, and another video displaying a triangular craft hovering over the West Coast, seen through night vision goggles. He revealed that the UAP task force concluded that these triangular objects were unmanned aerial systems, and that their triangular appearance was the result of light passing through the night vision goggles before being recorded by an SLR camera. Both of these incidents remain a mystery. He added that since the early 2000s, there have been an increasing number of unauthorized and unidentified aircraft near military-controlled training areas and ranges, and other designated airspace. Reports of sightings are frequent and continuing but fleeting. Navy and Air Force crews now have step-by-step procedures for reporting UFOs on their kneeboard, in the cockpit, and Congress is being pressured to insist that the materials be made public. And if the Defense Intelligence Agency won't produce it, the people who ran the program will step forward if requested. The deputy director added that there had not been collisions between the UFOs and U.S. aircraft, but stressed that there had been at least 11 near misses, and that the U.S. has been working with other countries who have documented reports of similar UFOs to help determine their origins. The conclusions of many of the unsolved cases among the 440 reports were vaguely cautious, stating that there was no tangible evidence of either extraterrestrial origin or a technological advancement by foreign adversaries such as Russia or China. A U.S. official clarified this point. Of the many reports we are dealing with here, we have no clear indications that there is any non-terrestrial explanation for them, but we will go wherever the data takes us. What the case investigators did agree on was the inescapable fact that the majority of the sightings were physical objects, not sensor artifacts, and that these crafts really do exist.
This is the tower in Edwards. We have an object now. Over the field. He is right over the field. Right over Edwards, moving southward fairly rapidly. And this thing also has, I can make out red and white flashing lights. And the captain at Depth 1 has confirmed this. He can also see this. He can also see this. Does it make any sense to you what it could possibly be? No, we're in as much as dark light as you are. San Pedro is painting them, 3 targets, and they're all 3 around 9,000 feet. San Pedro is picking them up at 9,000. Roger. What about Boron? Boron, we're working with them to see if we can get them on them now. But those 3 little dots out there, and I'll say that there are 3 definite objects, but it's not weather, it's not flutter. They see the objects, but they don't see their aircraft. No, they can't tell what they are. Scramble on. You gotta scramble on.
80 of the reported incidents encompass data not from one, but multiple sensors, negating the notion of sensor anomalies. An insistence has emerged that much more investigative research must be done to identify these crafts, as the limited amount of high-quality reporting on unidentified UFOs hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UFOs. Investigators were perplexed by several of the UFO encounters where the unearthly crafts exhibited unusual flight characteristics. In most of the cases, the UFOs would somehow remain stationary against strong winds moving against them. Then they would suddenly maneuver or jettison away at supersonic speeds without any visual means of propulsion. In a few of the cases, military aircraft systems experienced radio frequency energy associated with UFO sightings. The alarming reality of the potential threat by UFO was defined in the hearing, stating that the mysterious crafts clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain. UFOs would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversary collection platforms or a potential adversary that has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology. The central concern for national security experts are the cases where UFOs were clustered around U.S. training and testing grounds. For reasons unknown, these experts have downplayed the threat to the public. Posing the notion that this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance to report anomalies. In response to this, the United States National Intelligence has come forth with astonishing secret evidence of UFOs breaking the sound barrier without a sonic boom and performing maneuvers humans don't have the technology for. They have disclosed shocking cases that have been declassified regarding mysterious flying objects that have been seen moving through restricted military airspace over the last several decades. This is one of the few instances of the U.S. government publicly acknowledging aerial sightings by Navy pilots and others, justifying further study. A former U.S. military pilot who witnessed countless UFOs flying in restricted airspace recently came forth and announced that these anomalous aircrafts are a security threat. The pilot was one of many other military aviators who witnessed unidentified vessels flying off the coast of Virginia not once, but every day for 2 years, beginning in 2019. The pilot was deeply concerned by the ongoing incidents and the lack of response from the Pentagon. The pilot stated, "I am worried, frankly. You know, if these were tactical jets from another country that were hanging out up there, it would be a massive issue." He expressed his discouragement that the Pentagon had been reluctant to address the encounters over restricted airspace. He added, "Because it looks slightly different, we're not willing to actually look at the problem in the face. We're happy to just ignore that these are out there, watching us every day." The crafts were seen to rotate and ascend to high altitudes in the blink of an eye. Attempting to rationalize these incredible maneuvers, the suggestions of these crafts being spy devices by foreign powers, secret U.S. technology, advanced reconnaissance drones originating from Russia or China all seem to be unlikely explanations. The pilot concluded with, "This is a difficult one to explain. I don't know. I don't know what it is, frankly." Another retired U.S. Navy pilot described his encounter with the extraordinary aerial crafts he witnessed off the California coast in 2004. He claimed that the craft's incredible speed and maneuverability was far superior to his advanced FA-18 warplane. He stated, "I don't know who's building it, who's got the technology, who's got the brains, but there's something out there that was better than our airplane." Additional videos and photographs of these encounters were released that showed triangle-shaped crafts blinking and darting through the clouds. In response to this visual evidence, the Director of National Intelligence publicly stated that many of these UFO encounters have no easy explanation, and that there have been a lot more sightings than have been made public. Only a few have been declassified. The director continued, "And when we talk about sightings, we are talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots, or have been picked up by satellite imagery that frankly engage in actions that are difficult to explain. movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. He stressed that the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs, had been observed all around the world and is not exclusive to the United States. He stated, "When we talk about sightings, the other thing I will tell you is, it's not just a pilot or just a satellite or some intelligence collection. Usually we have multiple sensors that are picking up these things, and some of these are unexplained phenomenon, and there's actually quite a few more than have been made public." In 2018 and 2020, the DoD's Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force released 2 classified intelligence position reports, which were distributed within the U.S. intelligence community. The reports provided stunning information regarding new UFO sightings, an leaked photo never seen by the public, showing a UFO rising from the ocean and tearing through the sky. The report stated that the UFO's extraterrestrial origin could not be ruled out. The leaked photo was taken in 2018 off the east coast of the United States by a military pilot using his cell phone camera. The pilot described the craft as an unidentified silver cube-shaped object, hovering over the ocean at an altitude of roughly 30,000 to 35,000 feet. Renowned UFO investigator Nick Pope commented on this amazing case, saying, "These revelations are extraordinary and give the public a genuine peek behind the curtain when it comes to how the U.S. government is handling the UFO issue." What this new information does is confirm that the government is taking the UFO phenomenon more seriously than ever before, and I anticipate further revelations shortly. The second report, released in early 2020, was even more startling, describing UFO witness accounts of these crafts maneuvering through the air and underwater, zooming through the ocean, then emerging effortlessly back into the sky at incredible speeds. Contained in the report was an extremely clear photograph of a triangular craft rising from the ocean in full view of a Hornet fighter pilot. The photo was taken once the craft emerged from the water, just before it suddenly shot straight up to the outer atmosphere within seconds. Those who have seen the photo described a large equilateral triangle with rounded edges and spherical white lights at every corner. With the escalating UFO encounters clearly posing a threat to national security, a U.S. Deputy Secretary issued a memo ordering the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security to institute a formal directive for the further study of UFOs by the UAP Task Force. When the subject of crashed UFOs and UFO retrievals was introduced, a landmark admission was revealed that the military had been testing wreckage from UFO crashes, and their discoveries would change the world. Through a Freedom of Information letter, a UFO researcher retrieved sensitive UFO material from the Defense Intelligence Agency. According to the researcher, this could include physical debris recovered by personnel of the Department of Defense as residue, flotsam, shot-off material, or crashed material from unidentified flying objects. The researcher received 154 pages of test results that included a report on an unearthly memory metal called nitinol, which returns to its original shape when twisted or folded. The documents also include evidence of retrieved debris exhibiting extraordinary capabilities, including the ability to make objects invisible and slowing down the speed of light. He further stated that they have been able to learn some things about the materials of construction, which hold tremendous promise as futuristic materials which will change our lives forever. The researcher estimates that some of the tested material originated from the Roswell incident of 1947, when a UFO crashed in New Mexico, and portions of the memory metal were discovered by a local rancher. He added, "The inclusion of advanced technical reports on nitinol is curious, and they are omitting information on the chemical and elemental composition of the material as well as its origin. Also, they have omitted names of the involved scientists, but I have since learned some of their names and will be contacting them." The conclusion that debris from the Roswell UFO crash could not have originated from Earth proves that Jesse Marcel, a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Air Force, and who was a key figure in the initial discovery and analysis of the Roswell crash, was right all along about his assertion that the crash materials were indeed extraterrestrial. Marcel brought small portions of the crash debris to his home to share with his wife and son, Jesse Marcel Jr., who recalled playing with a lightweight foil that no matter how it was bent, it would return to its original shape. Jesse Jr. was particularly fascinated by a small beam with purple-hued hieroglyphics. Marcel was remembered telling his young son as they looked through their telescope that humans are not alone in the universe, and that when they look to the heavens through the telescope, there was a chance some other beings were looking back at us. Another massive bombshell revelation presented to the committee detailed reports of the Defense Intelligence Agency's research into the biological effects of UFO sightings on humans. This entailed burns, heart issues, sleep deprivation, and reported abductions, some resulting in pregnancies. The report determined that these victims had been injured from exposures to anomalous vehicles, especially airborne and when in close proximity. The cause of the burns was determined to be electromagnetic radiation, with additional linkage to energy-related propulsion systems. The DIA issued a dire warning that whatever these objects were, they should be considered a threat to the United States' interests. The report disclosed 42 cases from medical files and 300 unpublished cases of people incurring injuries following encounters with these unknown objects. Adding to this phenomena, a professor of pathology at Stanford University has been conducting tests on the brains of people who claim they've experienced a UFO encounter, and the results are very alarming. The professor has published over 300 research articles on the matter and owns 40 U.S. patents. Over the last decade, he has devoted his time to studying retrieved materials from alleged UFOs. His interest in the UFO phenomena began when he was asked by military officials to utilize his blood analysis instrumentation to aid with cases of pilots who were in proximity to alleged UAPs and, as a result, contracted horrible brain damage. When pressed if the professor could reveal the more abnormal effects on the brains analyzed with MRIs, he stated, "If you've ever looked at an MRI of somebody with multiple sclerosis, there's something called white matter disease. It's scarring. It's a big white blob, or multiple white blobs, scattered throughout the MRI. It's essentially dead tissue where the immune system has attacked the brain." He added, "That's probably the closest thing that you could come to if you wanted to look at a snapshot from one of these individuals. You can pretty quickly see that there's something wrong." Approximately 100 patients, mostly defense or governmental personnel or people working in the aerospace industry, were inspected. The professor continued, "You have a smorgasbord of patients, some of whom have heard weird noises buzzing in their head, got sick, etc. A reasonable subset of them had claimed to have seen UFOs, and some claimed to be close to things that got them sick. The research into this phenomena further revealed that the victims had an overconnection of neurons between the head of the caudate and the putamen. The caudate nucleus is a pair of brain structures that constitute the basal ganglia. It aids in high-level functioning that includes planning movement, learning, memory, reward, motivation, emotion, and romantic exchanges. The putamen is a large structure located within the brain. It is involved in an extremely complex feedback loop that prepares and aids in movement of the limbs. Signals are transmitted through the caudate and putamen structures to the motor thalamus, brainstem, and motor neocortex, which helps the body with all aspects of physical movement. Sadly, approximately a quarter of the MRI patients who claimed they had a UFO encounter died from their injuries, and the majority were found to have symptoms identical to Havana syndrome. Confronted with the undeniable visual evidence of supersonic aircraft outperforming and outmaneuvering America's greatest weapons, the Pentagon has finally established a new division to investigate UFOs, their origins, and the pursuit to capture these elusive crafts. This unit is called the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group. The goal is to determine if these mysterious objects wield unknown technology from a neighboring country, or if they actually originate from somewhere other than Earth. Additionally, the Defense Department recently established their own UFO investigatory division as a response to the countless UFO reports that remain unresolved. In response to the congressional hearing, A noted Harvard professor declared that sharing previously declassified information with the scientific community and the public is vital to discovering potential extraterrestrial life. Science is guided by evidence. In particular, if the acquired knowledge is extraterrestrial, then it is not a matter of national security. The professor added, "Recently, the U.S. government demonstrated that it can advance scientific knowledge. Let's maintain this encouraging sign of the U.S. government to support the promotion of science at the frontiers of our knowledge. Future cooperation between government and science will help us understand the unknown. It is undeniable that the proliferation of UFO case disclosures by governments who once held disregard for the controversial subject have found acceptance of the notion that extraterrestrial beings are among us. By removing the veil of humiliation and denouncement for those who were once unwilling to reveal their remarkable encounters, an avalanche of unreported cases are now coming to the forefront. Three U.S. Army veterans have withheld their unusual encounter that occurred in 2014 that was ultimately suppressed by their commanding officers. Years later, in light of the Pentagon hearings, the veterans felt comfortable to come forth with what they witnessed. Stationed in the Sinai Desert on the Israel border, they were notified of mysterious aerial objects. Upon investigating, the three witnessed bright, spinning crafts, also seen by another outpost 200 miles away. One of the veterans described it as a big object with several smaller objects which appeared to be communicating or scuffling like a dogfight in the air. We knew it wasn't our military, and it was baffling. To this day, I've never seen anything like the craft, covering such distance with extreme speeds. The crafts were observed with night vision goggles, and it was determined that the biggest one was ovular, the size of a jumbo jet flying at an altitude of 30,000 feet. At an estimated several thousand miles per hour. The smaller crafts darted around the large craft like fireflies, left, right, up and down, making instantaneous high-speed turns. Eventually, the smaller crafts merged with the larger one, and it disappeared. The Egyptian and Israeli militaries were consulted to confirm if they could identify what these objects were, but couldn't explain the sighting. The veterans were trained observers, familiar with all types of aircraft, and they were unable to report what they witnessed because they couldn't determine what they were. One of the veterans was reprimanded by his superior officer for discussing the encounter and received numerous violations as an effort to get him fired over allegations that he had mental issues. The other two veterans were equally persecuted and betrayed by senior Pentagon officials, ironically on the same day that the Pentagon held the congressional UFO hearings. on February 21st, 2021, on American Airlines Flight 2292, flying between Cincinnati and Phoenix. The pilots experienced a frightening close encounter with what its crew described as a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile, maneuvering extremely fast over the aircraft at 36,000 feet. A seasoned radio interceptor heard the frantic transmissions from the airline pilot through his scanners, who documented the encounter at approximately 1:19 Central Standard Time. The pilot reported, "Do you have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us. I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing, moving really fast right over the top of us." The response was chilling. There were no significant military aircraft present, and nothing was detected on radar. The aircraft flew on to land safely in Phoenix. This incident was similar to an encounter that occurred in the same area 3 years prior, when a Learjet and an airliner both had close encounters with unidentified objects. No investigation followed on either events, and they remain a mystery to this day. A stunning case, recently declassified, took place in 1992 on an Australian destroyer returning home from an Asian deployment at 2 a.m. on a clear night on the bridge of the destroyer. A Navy serviceman and 4 other colleagues on night watch duty witnessed an unusual cylindrical object hovering over the ship's bridge wing. A sonar technician who would later qualify to become one of the elites of the Australian Navy's Special Forces stated, "I looked up, and there was this long cylindrical silver object, about 20 meters long, with a heat haze around it. It was following us no more than 500 meters away. We could see it very clearly in the night sky. I called out to the officer of the watch, and 5 of us all looked up at this thing for at least a good minute. Then, it instantly accelerated and then disappeared into the distance. The acceleration was amazing, instantaneous. It just disappeared in the blink of an eye." 30 years later, he remains adamant that what he witnessed could not have been a conventional aircraft, balloon, or drone. To this day, he has no explanation for what he and his colleagues saw. Due to the stigma at the time of reporting UFO incidents, he remained silent until now. On November 23, 2019, a UFO was captured on video in Tucson, Arizona. The remarkable 40-minute video was released by the Department of Homeland Security and was recorded by a DHS spy plane equipped with FLIR optical technology. The spy plane's purpose was to discover drug smugglers over the Arizona regions. 20 minutes into the flight, the UFO was spotted and tracked for a full 40 minutes. The footage was examined by the UFO-AC Research Group, and it was determined that the unusual aircraft was unnatural and unidentifiable. The DHS launched their own investigation and to this day have not produced an explanation. The speed of the craft was estimated to be 90 to 200 miles an hour, and it would make abrupt turns and variations in flight, even rotating at certain times. The length was determined to be 5 to 6 feet long, and a smaller ball-shaped craft flying with it at close proximity was captured in the footage. Most importantly, the craft did not appear to emanate heat or any form of energy. Somewhere deep in the Mojave Desert, a secret hidden base exists inside a mountain where extraterrestrials have resided for several decades. This astonishing revelation came from a retired defense intelligence officer who held a news conference in front of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. She described a meeting with two unnamed individuals who guided her through the mountain's tunnels to an alien base, where she encountered two aliens of different races. The aliens began communicating with her telepathically and even consented to her revealing their existence. Her assessment of the alien beings was that they present no danger and are peaceful creatures. She stated, "We have an ongoing communication, and I look forward to all of you developing one." Her goal is to orchestrate a meeting between the alien higher beings and a team comprised of unbiased scientists, journalists, a noted documentarian, and even an astronaut inside the mountain base. These first-hand witnesses will then be free to provide their data to the public and media for further scrutiny. To further expand on the existence of alien races in the universe, an Israeli professor has revealed a stunning admission that eons ago, an alliance of various alien races in the universe was formed and is known as the Galactic Federation. According to the professor, this extraterrestrial federation has been communicating with Israel and the U.S. for many years, but have maintained secrecy to avoid widespread hysteria until the people of Earth are ready for the stunning truth and understand what space really is. The professor, who served as head of the Israel security program for nearly 30 years, is also a 3-time recipient of the Israel Security Award. He revealed details of agreements made between the aliens and the U.S., which includes an underground base on Mars, where he claims Americans and alien representatives coexist. As a mutual agreement, the alien presence continues to remain veiled until humanity evolves and reaches a stage of acceptance. The extinction of mankind over the next 2 decades may be imminent, and it appears to be more fact than theory. A recent study concluded that sperm counts have dropped nearly 60% since 1973, Following this trajectory, sperm counts could reach 0 by 2045. This alarming revelation would mean no more babies, no more reproduction, no more humans. The study found that in some parts of the world, the average woman in her 20s is less fertile than her grandmother was at 35, and a man today will have half of the sperm his grandfather had. Currently, there is no solution to this urgent crisis, which has yet to be addressed by world leaders, medical experts, or the media. The study concluded that we are at a critical junction as we face a full-scale emergency for humanity. The suspected cause of this threat may be toxic chemicals, plastics, pollution, fragrances in cleaning products, and even electronics. While this seems plausible, a much darker speculation is the notion that humans are being systematically exterminated from the planet by advanced beings or entities not of this earth, eager to dispose of us so they can take the planet as their own. In a stunning admission, NASA announced recently that it has recruited 24 theologians to determine the best strategic method to determine how the world religions will react to the reality of extraterrestrial life. The reason NASA is assembling this team of experts is due to humanity's advanced efforts to discover alien life, or to confront the existence of celestial beings already among us. A NASA-sponsored gathering was held at the Center for Theological Inquiry at Princeton University in New Jersey to address concerns about how alien life will impact mankind's belief system of gods and creation. The head of NASA's Astrobiology Institute said the theologians were recruited to consider the implications of applying the tools of late 20th and early 21st century science to questions that had been considered in religious traditions for hundreds or thousands of years. The implication of Earth being the sole planet with life on it in the universe is inconceivable when there are over 100 billion stars in this galaxy and over 100 billion galaxies in the universe. He believes it is important that regardless of whenever extraterrestrial life is discovered, that the implications have been thought through in advance. Contact with an advanced extraterrestrial race may potentially end life on Earth, urged scientists and experts. They warned that humans should not make the effort to establish communication with these beings, as it would risk endangering mankind. These concerns emerged when NASA began investigations of UFOs and released an intelligence report announcing that we cannot rule out the existence of alien life. An alarmed physicist responded by declaring, attempting to communicate with extraterrestrials, if they do exist, could be extremely dangerous for us. We need to figure out whether it's wise or safe, and how to handle such attempts in an organized manner. An astronomer working for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, also known as SETI, is deeply worried that any attempt to establish communication with extraterrestrials could ignite the reckless endangerment of all mankind. He added that beings from other planets are likely to be more advanced than humans, making them an even greater threat. To address this concerning issue, a Russian physicist created a similar theory. As an expert on theoretical physics for Russia's National Research University of Electronic Technology, the physicist referred to the Fermi paradox as the reason why we haven't found discernible proof of alien life. The Fermi paradox is founded on the idea that the Milky Way has 400 billion stars, with 7% of them being inhabitable. This encompasses 6 billion stars with Earth-like planets, establishing a credible probability of life forms existing in these worlds. However, would these alien life forms be easy for us to recognize? Or could their physical form be incomprehensible to our senses? The physicists surmised that extraterrestrials may exist in countless different forms, conceivably biological, mechanical, artificial intelligence beings, or pure energy or light. The possibilities are infinite. On a darker note, the physicists suggested a more foreboding scenario: that an alien race possessing advanced technologies light years ahead of ours could embark on galactic journeys and conceivably eradicate inferior alien civilizations along the way. He suggested that this process of extermination may not be their true intentions. The physicist clarified, "I am not suggesting that a highly developed civilization would consciously wipe out other life forms. Most likely, they simply won't notice, the same way a construction crew demolishes an anthill to build real estate. The incentive to grab all available resources is strong, and it only takes one bad actor to ruin the equilibrium." The realization is rapidly becoming clear. We are being groomed for a cosmic transition in our human existence. We may become part of a family of otherworldly neighbors, and conceivably inherit inclusion into the Galactic Federation. Humans may journey with our celestial brothers and sisters through the cosmos, discovering new worlds and life forms. This prospect, however, is contingent upon the true intentions they will have for us. The answer to this question will soon be revealed.